Frankie and Esther track to even a different level.
So you guys kind of, this might be repeat for some of you guys, but the Connecticut Valley, out of black tobacco growing regions in the world, is a bit unique. Most of the black tobacco growing regions, dark air cured cigar tobaccos, come from more volcanic type climates and soil. Connecticut River is unique. The Connecticut River, which was formed almost 10,000 years ago, cuts Vermont, New Hampshire, through Massachusetts, into Connecticut, then into the Long Island Sound. Produced perfect meadows for growing black tobacco. From what I could trace, there were certain Dutch explorers around 1615 that started moving up and down the Connecticut River and saw Connecticut tobacco, broadleaf tobacco, being used. Does anybody know? We're going to get in this till a little bit tomorrow when we see the farms. Connecticut seed is one of the 5 primary seeds in the world from which all tobacco strands have come.
Except for the Chernobyl.
Except for Chernobyl, which is its own unique seed. So
we got it right here.
What they can date right now is that tobacco is dated 2.2 million years old, which comes from Peru. They found a fossil. The same gentleman, he was also a Dutch guy that found the saber-toothed tiger, found tobacco, fossilized tobacco. So from there they said it spread throughout the Americas. Really, we don't know much because of all the damage that was done to indigenous cultures before Europe came on board, exactly when tobacco was really harvested and how long it has really been used. But Connecticut is broadleaf is one of the 5 primary seeds. Anybody can name the other 4? You get a special cigar for naming the other 4. Willie doesn't count.
Wait, we got it.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot.
Okay, give it a shot.
Provo, then Sumatra.
And where's it from?
Where's it from?
Yeah, so Provo or whatever you say, from where?
I can even see I don't know where it's from.
Go ahead.
Planet Earth.
Try to say it. You know
Good
what I'm
answer.
saying?
Well, Sumatra's from Indonesia.
Okay.
African Cameroon from Cameroon.
Keep going. How many are we at?
Well, I don't know where Crow's from. I'm guessing.
Who wants to take it?
Modafina from Brazil, maybe? Or?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. No, so who can name the other 4? You're wrong. You might have a couple in there. Anybody else? Charlie? Come on, Charlie. All right.
Hang on. From Connecticut, the broadleaf strain, buddy.
Broadleaf.
Your specialty, the king of broadleaf.
The other 4 are, it's Habanesis from Cuba, Modafina from Brazil, the Sumatra was right, and then you have the Mexico, the San Andreas Negro. So broadleaf is a very special seed, very old seed. So in the valley, they've been growing broadleaf for a long time, but it was really the 1600s that really Europeans started to trade it, and it was a commodity that was traded. So what we've been doing in the Connecticut Valley has been, really providing tobacco for the cigar market for a long time. In Connecticut, there's a lot of cigar factories. Southfield, Connecticut actually lays claim to one of the first cigar factories in the New World. They actually claim it's older than this gentleman's land of Cuba, which is interesting. It's a debate. I don't want to get into it, Willie. But the history of tobacco and cigar factories in Connecticut is very old, at least 1700s. Before any factories, pretty much everybody was making cigars on their own homesteads, their own, farms and whatnot. So the valley, this leaf has been used predominantly for binder and filler tobaccos throughout the years. This tobacco has been used also for the production of a lot of machine-made cigars. So of course that's not the same tobacco that we're looking for. We've been working very closely with farmers to grow specific crops of heavier leaf, because this is what the leaf that we use for the blending of liga privada. We use the top part of the plant. There's really only 3 to 4 leaves from the plant. This all depends on weather conditions. The weather conditions in Connecticut, if you talk to anybody, have been shitty in the past 6 years. This past year there was a tornado, ripped up a lot of crops. rainiest June to date. This has pretty much been consistent for the past 6 years plus. This is why broadleaf for us has been difficult. Is there broadleaf? As you can see upstairs, there was a lot of large leaves, okay? There's a lot of broadleaf, but it's a lot thinner and it's a lot lighter. This is not the tobacco that we use for liga privada. We're using a heavier leaf, and you can see it here. These leaves are so much different than some of the leaves that we saw upstairs. And you could feel the texture of them when we passed around. They're a lot thicker, a little bit smaller. These are the leaves we're really looking for. So we're working with farmers that are particularly growing to our standards and our specifics for growing heavier crops, okay? But again, if we don't have the weather cooperating with us, it's kind of difficult. This is one of the challenges. Imagine you have to plan for having all of this tobacco ready 2-3 years down the line. So what happens if we have a good crop year, but we don't know what next crop year is going to be? So if we went all out and started producing like crazy, and then the next crop cycle was terrible, we can run into a problem some years down the road. So this is one of the major reasons why we need to have really keen planning and proper fermentation in order to not run into problems where we don't have product on the market. T52 is one of these, is a good example of that. We'll look at some of the tobacco. T52 tobacco, that seed was brought from Cuba in the late 1800s and grown in the Connecticut Valley. To my knowledge, Cuba and Connecticut have had a very old history. Cuba would send filler tobaccos, and Connecticut would send different types of wrapper tobaccos to Cuba. Okay, that's what a lot of the Connecticut cigars were blended with before 1959. There was a lot of Connecticut-made cigars that had Cuban fillers and would use Connecticut wrappers. So I want to Pennsylvania.
No, with Cuba.
I don't know about Pennsylvania. I mean, I know
Tampa for sure.
Tampa was sure, same situation, but again, the growing, you know, I'm not too familiar with Pennsylvania as much.
See what they're growing? Well, the Amish are growing shit.
The Amish are growing shit, and you know, some of the tobacco, you know, the Amish have a whole different.
They're like, you come over, they got the dog thing and the tobacco thing.
The Amish have a whole different economic system going on. Right? You can imagine they have a different cost structure. The tobacco grown in Pennsylvania, you do not have the Connecticut Valley. You do not have the Connecticut River. I mean, the Connecticut River is a monster of a river. I mean, it starts almost in Canada, for God's sakes. And Pennsylvania doesn't quite have it. Not a knock to Pennsylvania, it's just different. You're talking about apples and oranges. It's a similar seed structure. It's a broadleaf seed. Broadleaf seed is typically known as type 51 seed, okay? The Habano seed is known as type 52 seed, hence where we get the name T52. Traditionally, both of these tobaccos have been stalk cut for the past 60 years plus. As you can imagine, in the valley, it's got very expensive over the years as far as the cost of labor to start priming tobacco. Also, you know, one of the reasons why this tobacco is a little bit heavier and veinier because it's being stalked. Okay, T52 seed is a completely different animal compared to the broadleaf. Okay, it's a bit thinner, not as thick, not as heavy, but has a tremendous amount of oil on the leaf. We'll take a look at that in a second. That oil is tremendously difficult to ferment. It takes a long time. We have tobacco here that's 3 years, some 3 years, 2009 tobacco. It's a very thick tobacco. It's a very difficult tobacco to cure. I think for this reason you don't see a lot of companies using it in the market.
If the longest one would take us 3 years, before when you guys were here, I said, Nick, do we have 3-year-old tobacco on here? And he said, yeah. And I said,
I don't think we have it.
I said, is it really, well, listen to me. Anyway, I said, is it really 3 years in a pilone right now? Because I don't know, I'm checking the pilone to this day, you know. And he said, yeah, we have some pilones still here of 3-year-old T52 material. And there was some there, which is interesting. But if you were to say, on average, on the Habano seed material grown in Connecticut River Valley, when you do the broad leaf, you're there from the time we plant it, or pick and plant, and then take it from, right?
Yeah.
Why does it take on the broad leaf between, 9 months to really an average, let's just say 6 months to a year and a half, 2 years. Why on average would that be so different? Well, first year when we chose not to buy the Brazil, you guys see right now there's a big push on a tobacco in Brazil called Brazilian Corojo or Brazilian Sumatra. What?
They call it, there's two different names for it.
Do you remember me, you, and Steve?
Yeah.
If we took a trip, we were deciding whether to move forward with T52 material or to move forward with this Brazilian, was it the Corojo? Criollo.
It's a Criollo.
They had them both. So we were there with Jose Fuego's father. And it was an interesting time for us. So we had to make that decision. Are we going to go forward? Brazil is sexy. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Just thinking about it. Matafina material or Corojo grown in Brazil. It's just sexy. You know what I'm saying? So it was a strong marketing urge to look at that Brazilian tobaccos, the Criollo and Corojo. And the guy who was growing it had worked for Plasencia for 50 years, Jose's father. What's his first name? Jose's father? To the J. Jesus. And
Other way around.
Oh, yeah.
right,
Jose. I'm sorry.
Jose. So with
Mix 'em up.
Jose, we knew that we were getting a person who really understands Habano material. That's what it was, Habano, just straight Habano. So he worked for Plasencia all these years. Plasencia is the king of Habano material. I mean, that's, I don't know. He's like Mr. Habano anyway. He's a genius. And his Habano skills are absolutely impeccable. They're him, the Israelis, like this guy's masterminding shit. He's unbelievable with Habano, right or wrong. And he had sent to Pumex this wand, and he started developing that seed just as we were getting ready to take $500,000 and invest into something that was right. But we had a real tough choice between these two tobaccos. There's a lot of good shit to choose from. It's what's going to be the one that makes you money, that's marketable, and that tastes great, and that has pliability and a yield factor. All of the ingredients that will make a successful company. And we chose to go with the T52. I remember it was you, me, and Saka. And we chose to do that for a couple of reasons. But the Brazilian tobacco now, they've taken it 5, 6, 7 years, 7 years.
Yeah,
it's gotten better.
They've both been, they were both at a similar stage of just really being. I don't think in Brazil they really grew the Habano seed until recently.
That's when they started.
Right. So they were just really getting in the process of, bettering the crop in the field and their fermentation process. And also in the valley, the T52 seed was grown in the valley for many years, but it really fell out of favor. I think the turn of like the 50s really brought.
So why is one taking us 2.5 years to cure and the other one 1.5 years?
Well, because one is very, very difficult in the structure of the actual leaf. If you see this leaf, this is the Habano seed, okay? And we'll pass this around.
Wait a minute.
Okay, you see this leaf, it's not quite as thick as this broadleaf seed, okay? But if you take this leaf, hold that open. Okay, you see these, if you guys could come close, if you want to see these.
Well, afterwards, you can stay where you
See the amount of oil?
Just to about kill
I
myself.
don't know if you can see it from there. There's a tremendous amount of oil that comes off of this leaf. So you have that, we call it in Spanish, grasa, the fat of the leaf. So you have not really a thick structured leaf, but you have a leaf with a lot of oil. So this is the trick, is to ferment this at a point where it is at the right flavor and combustion, but also without damaging the leaf. And that is a very time-consuming and sensitive process, because the window of when this tobacco is ready is about that big. If you don't catch that window, it's going to be undercured, it's not going to be burning right, it's not going to be tasting right. If it's
It happens
overdone,
at every factory from time to time. You get tobaccos that jimmy jam up.
but this tobacco, in my experience, in my opinion, is one of the most difficult tobaccos to ferment in the world. And
There's no question that's why no one has it. It's because no one wants to make
it's
a
not
3-year
favorable
investment.
because the time and effort you need to put into fermenting this, it really is very time consuming and it's very difficult. Whereas some of these other tobaccos, you have a bigger window where you have it ready. Whereas if this is overcured and you miss that window, this will completely fall apart and disintegrate on you. And then it's nothing. So if you're not being very diligent in testing, you can either damage a lot of tobacco or have tobacco that's going to the production floor that's not ready and is not completely fermented, it's not burning properly. This is one of the main issues as to why T52 has been so scarce in the market. It's real. It's real based on curing tobacco. You know, it's funny sometimes to hear, you know, sometimes in the marketplace of the store owners, I don't know, you know, I think sometimes they think we make widgets or there's, you know, you're not dealing with actually a real live commodity. You know what I mean?
I used to hear that people would say to me, oh, you guys depress the market with liga privada so that you keep the demand up, supply and demand. JD, he's this pretty smart dude. He's got that shit squared, right? And yeah, I understand it quite clearly. We've every single year made as many as we possibly can.
Of course.
We've taken so much money that's not ours to just buy as much material as we can.
You know how many times I have Marvin or on the Nick, we need more liga privada. There's a lot of pressure because the market, you know, we want to get people.
But it really
cigars.
takes a long time. It takes a long time to process the tobacco and do it the right way.
Correct. But you can also see too, this leaf, when it grows in the field, again, it doesn't grow like the broadleaf where it's big and it starts flopping over. It's growing upward. So you actually have better yields than you do broadleaf. The vein structure is a lot better, but you have a very difficult journey in the fermentation of this tobacco. Let me point something out. If you guys can see, this is broadleaf, okay? We have broadleaf. Where's Henry?
What do you Henry?
I just want to tell Henry and Pedro, in the beginning, the next time, we need to always be sure to include the beginning tobacco.
Yeah.
Okay? So this tobacco just came in a container from Connecticut. Okay? This is tobacco from the field that came in farmers' crop bundles. I want you guys to notice the difference of this tobacco right away from 1 year tobacco and then moving down the process. You can see right away the difference. This tobacco from the field comes in a rosado. It's almost like got a little bit of a reddish hue to it.
RBs.
Okay? This is tobacco. This tobacco comes right out of the barns, shipped to Nicaragua. It then goes straight into a pre-bulk. And you'll notice him when we walk out, it's tobacco that's not in hands, in gavillas. It's just laid out. Tobacco is coming from the field. There's a tremendous amount of moisture in this leaf, okay, coming from the field. Again, it's 90% water when it's coming out of the field. So we don't want to begin to add moisture to this leaf right away. We're not even sorting it right away. It's going right into a pre-bulk, okay? We're beginning to work that moisture from the field right away. That will go into a pre-bulk depending on how it's reacting for about 2 to 3 months. So we're beginning to work that initial moisture. Once it comes out of the pre-bulk, it then goes into sorting and classification, which you see upstairs. We're then beginning to get an idea of how much viso, seco, ligero, how much wrapper, binder, and filler tobacco we have. It's scrap. Then it comes down, and it begins to be moistened, and then goes into the pilones. Okay? Then it begins the process. And after 1 year's time, you can see how dark this tobacco really becomes. Okay? This tobacco you can cure at different temperatures. You can bring this, we're talking about basically almost like a controlled compost tank, okay? So the combination of the pressure of the bulk, the moisture, is triggering the fermentation process. If you don't monitor these pilones on a daily basis, you can get these temperatures up to 150 degrees, 160 degrees. You can keep it going, but you're going to completely destroy the tobacco. I always compare it to my grandma's pasta sauce. It's the difference between cooking it out of the can, putting it on the oven, and cooking it within 10 minutes, or her slow simmer, light temperatures over a whole day and preparing the sauce. What is she doing? You're preserving the flavor of the leaf. and that's what we're doing here. That's what Chema's done a tremendous job. When we first started curing this, we were curing it at very high temperatures. We noticed that it wasn't coming out exactly the way we wanted it to. We then switched to slow and steady wins the race. That's how we've been working it ever since.
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady. Slow and steady. You guys, I want to pass this around so you guys can pass some of these hands around. Take a